I was looking for like a folk soul 70s inspired artist.
Right,
and
yeah, but
I didn't really exist,
so you had to be it.
I just tried to make it myself. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Jordan Bassett, you're watching Enemy, and we're here with the fantastic Michael Kiwanuka.
Hi.
How you doing?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Before I came here, everyone said to me, oh, Michael Kiwanuka, he's the nicest man in music, which actually made me more nervous, because I thought, what if I'm the guy that manages to piss off Michael Kiwanuka?
I don't think that will happen. I think you're safe, man.
What sort of does get on your nerves? What would I have to do to get on your bad side?
That's a good question. I mean, throw a couple of punches.
Okay, well, I think you're looking at me, there's no danger of that.
yeah. You can throw a couple of punches or, spray water. I don't know, spray water at me.
All right, I won't do that then. All right, that was going to be after the third question, but fine, I won't do that. So the new album is self-titled, which often when an artist does a self-titled album, it's like an indication that they're kind of recalibrating or sort of redefining who they are. Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about why this one is called Kiwanuka?
Yeah. It's just, decided to call it Kiwanuka because I've just felt in myself, I felt like I wanted to have an album title that was quite strong and defiant. I knew I wanted one word, and the songs were feeling a bit more boisterous in a way, I guess. I just was like, what can be a bold way to describe this album? And I thought Kiwanuka would be a good one. Yeah. And it was also, a lot of the content for this record is like finding, you get to an age where you feel confident in yourself or comfortable in your own skin. Yeah. You're not trying as hard to fit in, and you're not trying as hard to just be accepted. Yeah. You're just kind of like, who you are is who you are. So I thought that's kind of what this album is saying, kind of what it's about. So I thought I'd call it that. And on top of that, my name, I think, for me, represents quite a lot. Okay. Including like obviously my background, my history, but I also kind of celebrates my uniqueness as well, I guess, and just saying that I'm okay with being a bit different or being myself. So that's kind of the whole long answer to that question. Yeah. So
by different, could you talk a little bit about what you mean by that and why that's sort of linked to the album being self-titled?
Yeah. I guess both in just the name itself. Kiwanuka is like, it's not a common name in the UK, it's a Ugandan name. So in that basic sense, that's different. But at the same time, it's like being, I guess, first generation, being African, being like a black man. The music I make isn't necessarily specific to who maybe I could be typecast as. So it represents that too. I mean, when I growing up playing the guitar, being into like rock and roll music as well as being into soul, but also being into jazz, but then being into like 70s music, it was all kind of like weird for old people. Like, your music taste is crazy. Right. And I guess when I became an artist, it was like, it was hard to pigeonhole because it was like, are you a soul artist? Are you a folk artist? Are you And in that sense, it's unique too. So I feel like Kiwanuka just represents both of that, and kind of just the name in itself and my history and being a black British man, and then also who I am as a person, the kind of music I make. Yeah, just kind of emphasizes that.
So the opening track, You Ain't the Problem, it kind of like sounds like a sort of lost classic, like so much of your music does. Who are you addressing on that song?
The problem. Really, I'm addressing myself, but I did it in a way where it felt so that it could be as if I'm addressing the listener. Yeah. But really like all my songs, I'm kind of addressing me, but sometimes I just disguise it in like you or whatever, something simple like that. And it's just, You Ain't the Problem, it's just that same thing really, like rather than trying to meld into a form, just kind of do your thing and then let people come to you. If something doesn't happen, then you just move on to the next place, but you don't kind of like change anything, you know? There's just like a person for everyone in a way. So it's like, I always just think like if you're in a simple kind of like way to describe what I mean with You Ain't the Problem is like, if you're in like the playground and you're like asking people out, you can either like ask someone out and they say no, and then just and I ask them why, and then try and be exactly what they want you to be,
right.
and then you do it, and you always get caught out because you can't help be yourself, or you just kind of like, oh, that's a shame, it's annoying, and then you move and you speak to someone else, then someone's like, wow, you're perfect, but you haven't changed. So someone's perfect and someone's like, I'm not into that.
I think that first version of sort of approaching that situation is something you do more when you're younger.
Yeah.
And you think there's like some kind of secret formula.
Yeah. And there's like books about it, and you got to do this, you got to do that. But actually, you know, it's not really. Someone's gonna just be into the quirks that. Well, so your quirks could be someone else's like perfection, you know, and you ain't the problem. Is that it's like you don't need to really. You're not a problem. It's just basically change it up. If it's not working, you know, maybe someone else doesn't get it.
So is this something that you'd kind of realised in the last few years in your life as well?
Yeah, just like sometimes, you know, when you in this business, it's like you're trying to get heard, you're trying to make your way up.
Yeah.
And it's funny, it'd be like sometimes you would get like first few collaborations I would do, I'd always like second guess what I thought someone would want me to sound like, or I'd listen to their music and be like, and you'd forget that if you're called to do a collaboration, they want you. So you don't actually need to second guess anyone, you just got to just do your own thing. If it doesn't work out in that session or whatever it is that you're doing, it's just, that's not really, it just didn't work out, but it's not because there's anything wrong with you. And that kind of thing, I started to realize as I was like getting older and trying to find my way in this business and collaborating in the studio with producers and other artists. And the more I was like just basically did my own thing, the more else I stayed, the more I just kind of stayed doing me, the more it worked out. Yeah. So at that point I realized, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not the problem. It's just, you know, you never are really.
Were you thinking of the Kanye sessions when you were?
Oh yeah, that's an example. Yeah, that's definitely an example. I definitely second guessed that one.
Right.
You listen to all these, he's such a legend in the music business, especially in my generation. But also like people I've worked with where it has worked out, like working with Danger Mouse is like, he's a legend for my generation too. And that one worked, but only when I started just kind of like chilling out.
Right,
and just doing my own thing. It's funny, sometimes you'll be in the studio and you just do something that you think's like rubbish. And like everyone's like, that's amazing, what's that? And you're like, I thought this was like lame. And then when you do the things that you prepared, like rehearsed, it's like no one pays attention.
Yeah, okay.
So.
Well, that's hard then, right? Because then you sort of start second guessing everything.
That's it, yeah. So you just got to like kind of just like do your thing and just wait for everyone else to work out, if that makes sense.
Right, okay, yeah. So had you been sort of getting in your own way a little bit before? Yeah. So, I mean, those sessions for years, I know that was a while ago and probably get asked a lot about it, but it is sort of fascinating, to speak to someone who's been behind the scenes there. Would you be able to talk a little bit about what it was like on those sessions, what it was like seeing him work? Yeah,
it was like, it was a studio in Hawaii. It was like a big studio, but it was like not posh at all. Like it just had loads of space, and there was just like loads of different rooms that people would be in, doing different things. It was like a lot of artists that have now got massive with their like. Travis Scott was hanging around, and all these people, but they were known as at the head of it.
This was back in what, like 2012?
Yeah, 2013, 2012. But I mean, Hit Boy had some stuff. Hit Boy was walking around, and people were just in and out 24/7. And there were people just looking through records and finding beats, and then there was just this one main room where he would be, and like Rhymefest would be, and all these people like that. So obviously that's like super intimidating, where all these like legends are just walking around.
Yeah, I bet.
And that would be like the main room, and sometimes I'd be in there just sitting there, and sometimes you just go and find your own space and just
So
make
it doesn't
music.
sound like a very structured environment.
No, it's just like completely creative freefall, And you just like, if you come up with an idea, you'll just go into the room, play it to people, and then it might be cool, you know, and then you go like, well, that's all right, and then just do some more. And you kind of just, that's kind of how much I could describe it, but I definitely learned a lot from just seeing it, and definitely that is someone in that camp, they definitely celebrate individuality. And I think at the time, I thought they would probably want me to sound like either Justin Vernon or whoever, where collaboration worked, when to be honest, it's like, I don't think he really cares about anyone doing what someone else has already done.
Yeah, so obviously you were there because you're Michael Kiwanuka and they wanted what you do.
Yeah. But at that point, if I've done one album, it's hard to really believe that someone is winning, you know, that's post my Twisted Fancy and like my Beautiful Dark Twisted Fancy is post everything.
Yeah.
You know, just pre-Yeezus, but like those first 5 albums, I mean,
it's untouchable.
So, and you're like, why do you want me? You know, after all these records, it's just like it was crazy. So I could never really get over that. But it goes back to my like kind of example of the playground of like. But to be honest, I mean, all you can really do is just do the same thing you would do on your first ever session.
Yes.
Just come out with some random stuff, and if it works, then great. If it doesn't, then that's still not your problem. It's just they didn't work for that point, you know.
Yeah, so I read that so you said they were working 24/7, people like just coming in and out all the time.
Yeah, I don't think he slept. I mean, I'd see him at random hours. He was a very hard worker and just worked.
Really?
Yeah, just worked for like 20 hours with the 24. Yeah.
I heard that I read that you just sort of like wandered out and left a guitar there. I wondered if you ever got your guitar back.
I didn't get anything back from that. Yeah, that was not as fun as the Hawaii bit. It's harder to. That was a bit different. I was somewhere else.
Oh, that was a different thing. Oh, okay.
It was still the same session, same album,
right.
but like I just there was no other artist around. It was just me, so a couple of engineers. It wasn't as fun as the Hawaii
Okay,
ones.
where was that?
This was in Paris.
Right, this was in Paris. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but anyway, so overall, you know, that sounds like it was a sort of a bit of a turning point.
Yeah. Well, years after the fact, definitely a learning point, because you know that's like, I don't know, I'm a big football fan. That's like getting signed by Man U or like Barcelona, and then you don't make the first team.
Yeah.
But you're still kind of going. So you think, that would have been, what would have happened, you know? But it was definitely a cool experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I read that around when you were working on the last album, you kind of went through a bit of a difficult period and were not sort of that happy or sure of yourself. Mm-hmm. And I wondered how that compared to the making of the new album. Yeah,
that process was where I finally the penny dropped in terms of just the process of making records, being an artist, being a singer, coming up with stuff, dealing with the public, everything, you know, because it's kind of a whirlwind job. I finally settled. I think with Love and Hate and Home Again, I love those records, loved the process, but always kind of had that imposter syndrome of like, someone's gonna find me out, that second guessing we were talking about. And during this album, I think I got so tired of that thinking halfway through. And there were still moments where that was happening. I just thought I've really got to nip that in the bud.
Right, okay.
Because I'm missing, what happens is you just miss the best thing ever because you're not present, you know, you're too busy overthinking, and that kind of became the influence of the lyrical content of the record and the direction of what I wanted to sing about.
Yeah.
Actually can't remember the question properly. I think I've answered it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll lay off the hook.
Yeah. I kind of went on a tangent. I forgot what I was going on about.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, with the first album, Home Again, you were kind of became a part of that kind of Mumford & Sons, Laura Marling, kind of like new folk, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
How did that feel like a comfortable place? Did you feel like you kind of could you moved away from that? A new album's kind of much more expansive and kind of like soulful. So I wondered what sort of made you move towards that sound initially, and was that sort of where you fitted, or was it a part of that, like, well, this is what, you know, is commercially popular right now? You
mean the first album?
With the first album compared to
the ones later. I think that is, you know, the stripped back acoustic folk soul sound of that first album is definitely me. It's definitely what can naturally come out of me, as well as the Kiwanuka album, Love and Hate. But it was just where I was at in life at the time. I mean, it was like, I think you use the resources you have around you at the time, and like that album I wrote in my bedroom, a lot of it at my mum and dad's house, or the flats I was renting in Camden, and I had my guitar, you know, I had my acoustic, and I had the thoughts in my head and what was happening in life. And you're also like a product of your environment too, so a lot of music, acoustic music, was out and about at that point, so I felt definitely connected to it. So it was a bit of both. I think that's what I had to offer, and then met Paul Butler, and he really could like elevate the songs as they were, but they're very pure, kind of like naive in a good way, innocent songs. And then with Love and Hate, and definitely with Kiwanuka, you become like an artist, and you're suddenly thrown into this like juggernaut. And so, and you don't want. I didn't want to do the same thing again. So you kind of think, well, where can I go now?
Yeah.
I'm not that anymore. The resources have grown. I have some studios to go to that are like cool. I'm out in America recording with these producers that have like, you know, made these massive records that I've grown up with. So your resources become something else, and so you try and be present to that and try and reflect that's happening. So that's probably one of the reasons why the sound changed a bit, and also that's that need to want to grow, and that building of confidence and finding my voice, bringing in my guitar playing. And
well, is that a bit more difficult sometimes? I always wonder this, because I think, you know, with your first album, like you said, you have limited resources and you work with what you've got, and then the more options you got, does it sort of get a bit overwhelming? Yeah,
it can do. And like, I guess looking back now, like the advice I've been given and what I kind of use, what I found that works is, you know, the more you use the resources, you have more resources, but you don't like change the intention. So like, even if you're in a really nice studio, it doesn't mean like you gotta like have a really posh, nice sounding record or use every piece of gear that's in there.
Right,
it's more that you have the resource to be like, if you hear strings, you can have strings, but you have to that intention is like you genuinely want to put that in there. Or if you, it's like you follow the emotion more than you follow like the correct route. So it just allows you to have more vivid dreams and get it happening. So if that makes any sense. So with the last two albums especially, you know, I've always wanted to work with big string sections, but we only, in the first album, we had one string player that overdubbed everything.
Right.
And then second album, I could get 6 string players. But you're hearing it, so you're just singing it down the mic, saying, "Can you sing like blah blah blah?" You're not pretending to be this like scorer, and like just because you're at a big studio, you're still like acting like a kid that's just got one mic, but you've just got more toys. So you only use something if you like through the right intention, and if you really hear it or feel it. And I find it that way, you kind of it doesn't become overwhelming. You're constantly breaking rules, but that's what makes it kind of good. So it just allows you to be more expressive. You just basically get a bigger canvas.
Right, okay,
you can just spray more paint at it. Yeah.
And even before the first record, you were like a session musician. You worked with like Chipmunks and people like that.
Yeah.
But you sort of didn't feel like you quite fit into that world, is that?
Nah, that definitely wasn't me, no. I mean, by that point, I think I was like 19. I knew I wanted to be a musician, and I wanted to get paid to do music, to be a professional. So I had these gigs, and I loved them. You know, they were great, but I knew that I was like, but I love music so much, a certain type of music. I was already listening to a lot of my favorite singer-songwriters, playing my acoustic, and I was like, this doesn't really represent me. And that kind of inspired me to start writing songs. I kind of started writing songs after that, because I found that there was no music out there that I would play that really represented me. And I really wanted to be a session player, but I was like, I was looking for like a folk soul 70s inspired artist.
Right,
and that didn't really exist. So
you had to be it.
I just tried to make it myself,
I read that you didn't get paid for one of the Chipmunk sessions. Did you get paid?
Yeah, it was one of them that didn't get paid, but that's probably to do with my disorganisation and lack of like understanding an invoice. Yeah.
So you lost a guitar to Kanye.
Yeah. I'm pretty scatty at the best of times, man.
You're not the only one. I read a good line review actually of one of your festival sets this summer. I think it might have been End of the Road. And it said, I'm actually paraphrasing this, but it said, he plays black man in a white world, which is how many black performers must feel playing to fields full of middle-class white people at festivals all summer. And I wondered if there was any part of you that enjoys being kind of quietly subversive in that way. Definitely,
like part of it does definitely in the studio and making songs. And like creating things that are creative, be artistic. I always like that, but I would be lying to say like every time I'm doing it, I feel like confident enough to get away with it. There's some like scenarios playing that song is like, oh, it's just another song in the set.
Right, okay.
But there's some times where I'm like, want to get take out of the set list because I'm like worried about the reaction. But just not necessarily like it would be like aggressive, but for example, we're playing in Indianapolis or something in America, My fans aren't. There's like still hardly any black people that listen to music in America too, to my music. So, and some of them may have heard like 1 or 2 songs.
Yeah.
So they may not have heard that one, and sometimes people just get the wrong end of the stick.
Right. Okay.
So And then some days I'm feeling confident with it and just don't care if people get like weirded out by it. And sometimes I'm like feeling a bit unconfident, so I kind of like try and take it out the set.
So you do take it out of the set?
I haven't taken it out the set for years actually.
Yeah, I don't think you get away with it.
No, yeah, and like I've got a good band who they'll be like, why is that not in there? And I was like, okay, I'll put it in.
Really?
If I had it my own thing, I'll take it out, yeah. But ultimately, yeah, I think being subversive is like one of the funnest things to do with creativity, just because it like always, I think that's what art's for.
Yeah.
In a way, even in like simple things, like you can have like something like loads of colors and then one color that pops.
Right.
In a way, that's like a really simple version of like being subversive to me. It's like it makes you, oh yeah, you know, gets your attention, and like it's a way to describe something that's kind of you can't in like mundane day-to-day life.
Yes.
And that's why I think art's so good, because it kind of makes you tackle things that you're probably not allowed to tackle like at a dinner party or like going, life is very much like, especially in England, like stiff upper lip. So an art's a way to really conjure something that you couldn't just say.
Yeah.
Movies, like good movies are like that. Good painters are like that. Like good fashion, whatever it is, photographs.
Yeah.
That with that subversive thing that gets you really, or like when you like hear like a really nice song that's like upbeat and so soulful, you want to dance to it, but the lyrics are like so heartbreaking. For some reason, those are the best songs, and it's for me that's still kind of subversive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any kind of bad reaction to that song, in particular in America or over here?
Not like super bad. I think the internet doesn't really count for that, because there's loads of like trolls that would say random things. But online, like when it first came out, there was a few like funny comments from people being like
online or just IRL,
online, yeah. Like the YouTube comment sections, which I've kind of stopped reading anyway.
Right. Okay.
Just silly little things.
Remember what kind of things they said and like?
It was like I hate this song. It's like, what does he? This guy's racist, but I mean, it's like a minority, the 1%.
Right. Okay.
And most of the reception when that came out a few years ago was really positive.
Yeah.
So
it's a beautiful song. I mean, I suppose that sort of seeing like, people leaving comments and seeing what they're saying, that's kind of partly what you were talking about before, of being out about and people knowing who you are and being sort of confronted with people's. Yeah. So if you just had to kind of like switch off to a bit of it.
Yeah, I think that's like definitely the least enjoyable thing. It's funny, like things happen, like you just get like I don't even read like articles or watch things back or as much, just because it just helps me just not go crazy.
Right.
But like obviously people like, oh my gosh, did you see that thing? Or they might send you, I don't want to see it.
But they're only going to tell you if it's a good thing.
Yeah, of course.
Hey, did you see that really horrible YouTube comment? Something like that.
I know. Well, you'd be surprised. I'm joking now. But yeah, like I think I find that the hardest thing, just because you're just making it and then you making the music and then you don't really think about it, and then suddenly you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
And it's a bit weird, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I definitely find that the hardest bit, or like if I'm just hanging out, getting recognised. I don't get recognised that much, to be honest, but the few times when it happens, I'm like, I was in Co-op the other day. It's like at like 11, like before the shot, just getting like a cook meal, and it's just like student was like, oh my god, and I was like, oh, I just want to get my cook meal, but hey. And I'm like, man, it's amazing, but it's like I'm not the best. I don't think I'm like natural at that kind of thing.
Right. Okay. Did you get it like more if you go back to Muswell Hill?
Yeah, Muswell Hill, but that's more like I definitely get Muswell Hill. I don't really get it anywhere else that much. I mean, I do, to be honest, but like not. But Muswell Hill is more often. But that's more like going back to your old school.
Right.
Because Muswell Hill's like tiny, and like everyone kind of knows everyone.
Yes.
So you're just like, all right, Jimmy. It's like, hello. It's like, how's the music? It's not like random.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah.
It's like your friend's mums and like, yeah, I'll keep going, or like,
yeah,
Mark at Halifax Bank. It's like, yeah, I'll keep going. It's like get me a ticket.
How would you sort of define growing up in Muswell Hill? Was it like a working class upbringing, a middle class upbringing? Like what sort of category would you?
It was like Muswell Hill was a middle class, out and out. town and upbringing, it was crazy. It was weird. I think, black man in the white world. I mean, my family, it was funny because it was like, we were so different so Muswell Hill, it was like everyone's got 2 cars, like everyone's got like their own bedroom,
right?
Everyone's got like everything. And then we had like, me and my brother shared a room, we didn't have a car. I remember like we had that, that internet, the dial-up internet, it's like, we had that for so long. And you still got that thing. And like stuff like that, they're small things, but like, it was like, we were plonked in the middle of like, basically like middle-class suburbia.
So why did your family end up there?
Well, I think because like, mum and dad kind of knew that, especially with like young black men, you can just easily get into like quite dangerous circles, just because of environment. And I think mum and dad were just like, we're going to try and avoid those so that me and my brother don't fall into like difficult, like rough crowds. And education and schools, Africans like really into education. So they found like, a converted flat in Muswell Hill. And then for them, that was like for us really to be like, they just knew, I mean, just black people know what it's like and there's a cycle. And mum was pretty clever, she just found a way out. And we still had the same thing, and I think that's probably why people, I think when I got to like late teens, early 20s, I almost like wanted to like shun that because people just assumed I was a certain way. It was like this rich kid, and I didn't understand anything from, almost like this guy's like crazy, weird black guy that plays guitar that's like from Muswell Hill. And again, it's going back to the album titles, my whole life has always been things where it's like, just a bit unique, and I was always desperate to just be like bland. I don't know why we want to do that, but you just because maybe you think you're gonna have an easier life and no one's gonna mention things like, but now I look back and I'm like really thankful because the resources, it's so crazy what environment, I think people underestimate what environment does with upbringing and the opportunities you have, like because of that I was a musician, people had, being around those big houses and people with like 2 cars and like a playroom as well as their own room, stuff like that, it means you've got a place to rehearse. Right, if you've got a guitar, you're like, oh, do you play drums? Like, yeah, it's like, man, I've got like 7 drum kits. And then like you just play, it's like, I don't have an amp, you're like, I've got 7. You're like, you've got resources upon resources of so much stuff. Right. And just because you live in a certain area, and I think I took that for granted, and that's why mum and dad went there, because, well, mum, it's my mum's brains. And so that's kind of why we ended up there.
And so I read it because you sort of wouldn't be able to understand sometimes the conversations that your family were having because you didn't speak the language. Yeah. I wonder, I'm slightly moving into the realms of sort of pop psychology here, but I wondered if that was maybe one of the reasons that you kind of move towards like an expressive art form, like music. Yeah,
I think so. I think, a lot of creatives create or make stuff because there isn't something that represents them, so you have to make it. Right. So you see, like, it's the same way with the guitar and playing with Chipmunk. It was fun and it was amazing, but I was like, but this isn't.
It's like, not me.
Yeah, there will be other musicians where like, this is exactly who I am. I made it. Where for me, it was like, this is amazing, but like, I kind of lied to myself. And then, but you make it up along the way because it's like, you don't quite slot in. Yes. So, and I kept being reminded of that because when we would go to Uganda, my parents were Ugandan, we couldn't speak the language, and people knew we were English, so they were like, immediately talking to us in English. If you go to the market, they'll haggle you for more stuff because they think you're just like loaded because you're from England, which is, to be honest, compared to like Ugandan shillings, anyone's loaded. And then, but then when we were home in the UK, it was like very much we were like black guys, Africans. So it was like, what the hell where am I fitting into? Yeah. And then the music would be like, man, you're into like weird stuff for someone. Everyone thought I played bass. Like, if I had a guitar, they'd be like, is that a bass? Well, it's actually a guitar. What? But I think people in their heads just think that at the time, like, black people play bass. Really? Yeah, I mean, I always got asked the bass.
Oh, what? Because that's considered like...
it's like like the rhythm. I don't know what it is, but I got like the bass thing loads. Wow. So I think I was always like, or even having an afro was like, the barbers would cut it off. They'd be like, this is weird, because it would be a picky afro, and be like, oh. So I think people that get into expressive art forms is because you're trying to make the thing that doesn't exist. You're trying to create a new thing.
Yes.
Because you're like, no one's speaking for me. I think that's probably what it is. And then you've probably got a chip in your shoulder, so you've got a bit more drive to get through the hard things, and you probably more soulfulness in the voice, whatever it is, it really comes out. And I think if you look, the singers and the creators, they're always kind of a bit like out on a limb, and I think that's probably what drives them to make stuff.
To do what they do.
Yeah.
The last album opened with a 10-minute track. There's a great song on this album called Final Days, which has this weird, like 2-minute kind of experimental, like instrumental, like intro on it. Is that another part of sort of, you know, people might think, after the first album, they might think you're this sort of like quite accessible, like singer-songwriter, and are those elements of the albums you sort of seeing how far you can dial up the weird? I think always like make people give something that people maybe wouldn't expect. Is I think always quite important if you're going to make like a lot of albums. Otherwise, you might just meld into just the same thing all the time. Like, I don't need to listen to the next album, it's going to be the same as the last kind of thing. And in school, like, a lot of my favourite bands, I love Radiohead, and they always changed. So I think I've got a bit obsessed with trying to learn how you can develop like that, a band like that just keeps morphing, you know, but still being like the same band. I always thought that was cool. And like, you just always want to do something different. I think in the studio, you're always trying to push yourself to do something that was different to the last time, because otherwise maybe there's no point. I don't know. But as well, you know, I might just mellow out again and go back to the first album style. You know, I don't know. It's whatever you're really feeling at the time. And there's sort of religious elements in some of the lyrics and stuff as well. I wondered if you sort of would do a Kanye, like a sort of like a religious album, like Jesus the King, which is still not out.
I mean, Jesus is King. Who knows? I've never been to one of his Sunday services. But faith and my faith. Religion is like that word I'm kind of like a bit wary of, just because I think for me, when I hear religion, it's like this thing that you're forced to do from your parents, and and it's like, do this 17 times a day, which I respect if that's your thing. But I'm really interested in I would kind of describe it as faith, you know, and a hopefulness, and like just a purpose for things, and spirit, and then like the spiritual things in life, things that guide you, things that help you make music. Where does music come from? I always thought that stuff is crazy, stuff that is like beyond like mankind. And that stuff leads me to like believe in God and believe and have my faith I have. That comes through my parents, and but that keeps me actually wanting to follow that. And sometimes it might be like something that would be deemed religious, but then sometimes it's just by making a decision to, you know, write a song like Black Man in the White World. But that faith allows you to like stay strong with it, to make that decision even if people are like, what are you doing? You know, it gives you like I don't know, it just gives you a strength to like be unique, I guess, I guess that's the theme of the thing, but like it helps you stand out and not be like so worried for acceptance, because you've got something that's driving you that's way bigger and stronger than the acceptance of like my buddy or this person.
Exactly.
You know? And that's for me what faith is, and that's why that's all in my music, and that's how I got brought up, and that's what gives me.
So it's like something bigger than like, what does this person think of me? Like what?
It's my strength. It's definitely where the strength comes from, and the music comes from. I mean, for me, I always think like, because music has 12 notes, but like 12 for me is like, it's not a very big number. But yet we've had so much different music since like the beginning of time. I just don't understand how that can happen. So there's got to be something more than, you know, it's not like building a tripod or like whatever. Because it's got its limitations. Music's like limitless, and it's for me, but you also can't touch it. So it's something spiritual, and that's where my faith, that's why I believe in God, and that's why I have that faith.
And finally, what would you like the album Kiwanuka to do, sort of, you know, in terms of your career, or bigger even than that in terms of the legacy that the record has?
Well, to win like every Grammy award that's ever been done, best producer, best album.
That'll do.
Yeah, and then to go #1 in every single country, and to play 78 nights at the O2. No, I mean that would be sick. But
watch the space.
other than that one, I just hope it like. I think it's a really cool time to be in. I think music at the minute is exciting, and I think like it's a really cool time to just be around and to be part of this exciting thing that's happening in every genre. I think some amazing albums have been made the last 2-3 years, so to just be in the mix is for me like incredible. Like for people to be excited for the album, to know a single, to be like. I mean, when people say relevant, it sounds like you are just trying to fit in, but like. It's pretty cool, you know. It's a pretty cool time for music, I think. Maybe not like record sales and like people are streaming and people aren't selling records, but creativity and creatively, there's crazy stuff happening. Yeah, like the Jesus King album if it comes out, or those random things happen, or like just like music is crazy at the minute. So I just think to be around now doing music and be an artist that's like have peers like that are around now is pretty cool. So I just think I'd want the album to be in the mix.
Great.
Yeah.
Michael Kiwanuka, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.